Crimea is shaken tonight. Russia is stunned. Explosive reports are spreading fast. The Kerch Bridge is at the center. Is this a turning point in the war, or another warning sign for Moscow? Stay with us. This story changes everything. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are covering one of the most shocking developments linked to the Ukraine war. Crimea is shaken after explosive reports surrounding the Kerch Bridge stunned Russia and triggered intense global attention. The Kerch Bridge is not just a structure of concrete and steel. It is a powerful symbol of control, logistics, and political messaging. Any incident connected to it immediately sends shockwaves across military, media, and diplomatic circles. In recent hours, reports have emerged suggesting a serious incident or disruption near the bridge. While official confirmations remain limited, the reaction inside Russia has been swift and emotional. Social media platforms flooded with speculation. State media shifted tone. Security around Crimea visibly tightened. For Moscow, this bridge represents stability and authority. For Ukraine, it is a strategic lifeline for Russian forces. That is why even reports alone can cause panic. Markets react. Military units are put on alert. Civilians begin to worry. This moment highlights how fragile the situation remains. Information itself has become a weapon. Whether the reports prove fully accurate or not, the psychological impact is undeniable. Crimea has felt shock before, but this time feels different. The speed of reaction shows fear beneath the surface. Today's video will break down what the Kerch Bridge means, why these reports matter, and how this could shape the next phase of the conflict. Watch carefully, because every detail matters now. The Kerch Bridge is one of the most strategically important structures in the entire region. Built to connect mainland Russia with Crimea, it serves as a critical supply route for troops, fuel, ammunition, and equipment. Without it, Russian logistics in southern Ukraine become far more complicated and vulnerable. This is why the bridge has remained under constant protection since the start of the conflict. Advanced air defense systems, naval patrols, and surveillance assets surround it day and night. Despite these measures, the bridge has repeatedly appeared in intelligence assessments and military discussions. Any disruption forces Russia to reroute supplies through longer, more exposed paths. That increases cost, time, and risk. Beyond military value, the bridge holds political importance. It was presented as proof of Crimea's permanent integration into Russia. Any threat to it challenges that narrative directly. That is why explosive reports instantly trigger strong reactions from Russian officials and media outlets. Even limited damage or temporary closures can have outsized effects. Civilians in Crimea rely on the bridge for food, fuel, and travel. Panic buying and traffic congestion often follow alarming news. For Ukraine and its allies, the bridge symbolizes a pressure point, not necessarily for immediate collapse, but for sustained stress. In modern warfare, perception can be as powerful as physical destruction. The Kerch Bridge sits at the crossroads of military strategy, political symbolism, and public morale, making every report surrounding it extremely sensitive. The latest explosive reports emerged rapidly, spreading across social media before official statements could catch up. Videos, images, and unverified claims began circulating, each adding fuel to uncertainty. Some posts suggested loud blasts. Others mentioned emergency responses and temporary restrictions. While confirmation remains limited, the reaction was immediate. Russian authorities increased security alerts. Traffic monitoring intensified. Air defense activity reportedly increased in nearby areas. State media urged calm while avoiding detailed explanations. This pattern is familiar. When sensitive infrastructure is involved, information control becomes a priority. However, silence often creates more fear than reassurance. People fill gaps with speculation. International observers quickly took notice. Analysts emphasized caution, warning against drawing conclusions too quickly. Still, markets and political commentators reacted as if something significant had occurred. That alone demonstrates the bridge's psychological weight. Even rumors can force military recalculations. For civilians in Crimea, uncertainty is exhausting. Each new alert revives memories of previous incidents. For Russian leadership, repeated scares raise uncomfortable questions about security guarantees. For Ukraine, even indirect pressure achieves strategic value. No official side has yet provided a complete picture. That ambiguity is itself part of modern conflict dynamics. Information moves faster than verification. Reactions come before facts. This environment benefits those who can influence narratives effectively. Whether the reports prove accurate or exaggerated, their impact is already real. The situation shows how fragile confidence around key infrastructure has become and why every signal is closely watched. Crimea's reaction to these reports reveals deeper vulnerabilities beneath the surface. Residents describe tension, increased police presence, and long lines at fuel stations whenever alarming news breaks. Even without confirmed damage, fear spreads quickly. This reflects years of uncertainty since the conflict intensified. The peninsula remains heavily militarized, yet people understand that no defense is perfect. For families, stability feels temporary. For businesses, disruption means losses. Tourism, once vital to Crimea's economy, suffers whenever security concerns rise. The Kerch Bridge is central to daily life. Its status affects everything from grocery prices to medical supply deliveries. That is why even brief closures can cause widespread anxiety. Russian authorities attempt to project control, but repeated incidents weaken public confidence. Each new alert raises the same question. How safe is Crimea really? Internationally, these reactions are closely studied. They offer insight into morale and resilience. Analysts note that psychological pressure can be cumulative. It does not require destruction to be effective. Constant alerts, uncertainty, and fear wear people down over time. This strategy has been observed in many modern conflicts. Crimea now exists in a state of constant alertness. Every report, every sound, every rumor matters. The latest explosive reports around the Kerch Bridge fit into this broader pattern. They remind everyone that the situation remains volatile. Stability is fragile. Control is contested. And the future remains uncertain for those living under the shadow of this critical link. From a military perspective, the timing of these reports is especially significant. The conflict has entered a phase where infrastructure, logistics, and supply chains play a decisive role. Large-scale maneuvers depend on steady flow of resources. Any threat to that flow forces adjustments. Military planners must consider worst-case scenarios even when information is incomplete. That alone diverts attention and resources. Air defense systems may be repositioned, patrol patterns adjusted, supply convoys rerouted. All of this consumes time and energy. For Russia, protecting the Kerch Bridge requires constant vigilance. For Ukraine, creating uncertainty around it can yield disproportionate benefits. This asymmetry is important. Modern warfare often favors actions that strain the opponent without direct confrontation. Information operations amplify these effects. Explosive reports, even without confirmation, can force real responses. That is why analysts stress caution but also acknowledge impact. The bridge's importance makes it a strategic focal point, regardless of actual damage. International military experts emphasize that repeated alerts suggest underlying security challenges. No system is invulnerable. Each incident tests defenses and response times. Lessons are learned on both sides. Meanwhile, civilians remain caught between narratives and realities. For them, strategic theory offers little comfort. They experience disruption directly. The Kerch Bridge has become more than infrastructure. It is a pressure gauge for the conflict. When reports emerge, tension rises everywhere. This moment highlights how modern conflicts blur lines between physical and psychological battlefields. Media coverage plays a powerful role in shaping perceptions around incidents like this. Headlines move fast. Language choices matter. Words like explosive, shaken, or stunned carry emotional weight. They drive clicks, shares, and reactions. But they also amplify fear. Responsible reporting requires balance, yet competition for attention often pushes outlets toward dramatic framing. This creates challenges for audiences trying to understand reality. In the case of the Kerch Bridge, conflicting reports appear quickly. Some sources emphasize severity. Others urge restraint. Viewers are left sorting through noise. This environment benefits misinformation. False claims can spread widely before corrections arrive. Governments attempt to counter this with official statements, but trust varies. For many people, credibility depends on past experiences. Each incident reshapes that trust. International audiences consume these stories differently. For some, it is distant geopolitics. For others, it is personal security. Social media accelerates everything. A single clip or image can define the narrative regardless of context. Analysts urge viewers to verify sources and wait for confirmation. Still, emotional impact often precedes rational analysis. The latest reports demonstrate this perfectly. Before facts were clear, reactions were already set. This highlights a core reality of modern conflict. Information warfare is constant. Control of narrative can matter as much as control of territory. The Kerch Bridge sits at the center of this battle. Each report becomes a signal. Each reaction becomes data. And the cycle continues, shaping perceptions far beyond Crimea. International reactions to the reports have been cautious but attentive. Governments, military alliances, and analysts understand the sensitivity of the Kerch Bridge. Official statements avoid confirmation while emphasizing monitoring. This careful language reflects the risk of escalation. Any verified damage could alter calculations. That is why diplomatic channels remain active. Allies exchange intelligence assessments quietly. Public messaging stays measured. Markets, however, react to uncertainty more than confirmation. Energy prices, insurance rates, and shipping assessments can shift based on perceived risk. This shows how local incidents can ripple globally. For Ukraine supporters, the reports highlight ongoing pressure points. For Russia's partners, they raise concerns about stability. Neutral observers focus on humanitarian implications. Disruption affects civilians first. Supplies, travel, and safety become uncertain. This layered response underscores the bridge's importance beyond the battlefield. It connects not just land, but political, economic, and diplomatic interests. Each report becomes a test of restraint. How leaders respond matters. Overreaction risks escalation. Underreaction risks appearing weak. This balance is difficult. The current situation illustrates that challenge clearly. While confirmation remains limited, attention remains high. That alone demonstrates the bridge's role as a strategic nerve center. The world watches closely, not because of what is proven, but because of what is possible. In modern geopolitics, possibility itself can drive action. The Kerch Bridge embodies that reality right now. Looking ahead, the key question is not just what happened, but what happens next. Security around the Kerch Bridge is likely to increase further. Additional checkpoints, patrols, and monitoring systems may appear. This creates delays and inconvenience for civilians. Over time, that affects morale. Repeated alerts normalize fear. People adapt, but stress accumulates. From a strategic view, constant defense drains resources. Every guard posted here cannot be posted elsewhere. This is a classic pressure tactic. Analysts suggest that future incidents may focus more on disruption than destruction. Temporary closures can be effective. They send messages without crossing escalation thresholds. Information operations will continue alongside physical measures. Each side will attempt to shape perception. For audiences, critical thinking becomes essential. Separating confirmed facts from speculation protects against manipulation. For civilians, preparedness becomes routine. This is the cost of prolonged conflict. The Kerch Bridge will remain central to these dynamics. Its status will continue to signal broader trends. Calm periods suggest control. Alerts suggest vulnerability. The latest explosive reports fit this ongoing pattern. They remind everyone that the situation is unresolved. Stability remains fragile. The future of Crimea depends not on one incident, but on cumulative pressure over time. Each moment adds to that weight. Watching carefully, analyzing responsibly, and avoiding panic are crucial as events unfold. The story is not over. It is still being written. For audiences following this conflict, understanding context is vital. Sensational headlines alone do not explain reality. The Kerch Bridge is a focal point because of what it represents. Control, connection, and confidence. When reports emerge, they challenge all three. That is why reactions feel intense. But history shows that single incidents rarely decide outcomes. Instead, they contribute to longer trends. Analysts look for patterns, frequency of alerts, response speed, public messaging shifts. These indicators reveal more than isolated claims. For civilians, staying informed without becoming overwhelmed is difficult. Constant exposure to alarming news affects mental health. Taking breaks and seeking verified sources helps. For creators and commentators, responsibility matters. Language should inform, not inflame. The goal should be clarity, not fear. The current reports offer an opportunity to reflect on how modern conflicts are experienced. Not just through battles, but through information streams. The Kerch Bridge is both physical and symbolic. Attacks on either dimension have consequences. Understanding this dual nature helps audiences interpret events calmly. As more information emerges, narratives may change. What remains constant is the bridge's importance. It will continue to appear in headlines. Each mention will carry weight. Being prepared for that helps viewers stay grounded. Awareness, context, and patience are essential. This approach allows understanding without panic and analysis without distortion. As we conclude, it is clear why explosive reports around the Kerch Bridge stunned Russia and drew global attention. This structure stands at the heart of strategic, political, and psychological dynamics shaping the conflict. Even unconfirmed information can trigger real consequences. That is the reality of modern warfare. Crimea's reaction shows underlying tension. Military responses reveal constant vigilance. Media coverage highlights the power of narrative. International reactions demonstrate caution and concern. Together, these elements form a complex picture. The situation remains fluid. Confirmation may come later, or clarity may remain limited. Either way, the impact is already visible. For viewers, the key takeaway is understanding rather than panic. Watching developments with context protects against misinformation. The Kerch Bridge will remain a symbol and a target of attention. Its future will influence broader trends. We will continue monitoring verified updates closely. This channel aims to provide clear, responsible analysis without exaggeration. If you want to stay informed as events unfold, your engagement helps. Like the video, share it with others, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an important update.